Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Well, it's Tuesday for me. I hope your Tuesday or whatever day it is for you is a happy one. All right. Here we go. All right, it's gonna be a quiet start to the stream, I think, which means we can just jump into some coding, huh? Let's see. We are gonna just go here, and we are gonna go here. I don't know what to do about this invin.dat thing. Probably just need to remove it. What's up, man? How are you? A noob? Is that how you say your name? A noobhab? Noohab? I apologize if I butcher your name. Where were we? I think we were here, weren't we? Yep, we're here. Alright. Ready to rock and roll. Well, first we gotta eat this orange. Excuse me. Need that. And we need a thread, which we don't have, so let's create that. Hold on, do I need a thread? Select. How do we do this? Yeah, we need a thread. We need a cancellation token. Okay, so what do we come over here? You go private, read only, agent thread equals thread. Then we say underscore thread. Then we say var. So this has a structured output. So this would be, what would this be? Feedback equals JSON serializer dot deserialize this agent response. Yeah, that's what we want. Did I type that wrong? JSON's, yeah, I did. It helps if you type things correctly. And this is going to be editor. That. Hey, what's up, Artwork Studios? Good to see you, man. How you been? Living the life? Oh, that's writer wants. Excuse me. Interviewer res. Excuse me. What's up, Lamp? How are you? Good to see you, man. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm almost done with my project, though if you watch the vid, you may need to mute it. Well, that's exciting, first of all. Congratulations. It's always awesome when you get near towards the end of something. So that's very exciting. What is the project? I don't think I caught that. Is it a game? I think I missed your the description of your project. Is it fine if I send the video into the Discord server? I don't know if I can promote myself. Oh, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, just send it into your projects channel, man. You're totally fine to share your stuff. That's what the whole point of that channel is, you know? So people don't, I mean, if people don't like it, they can just leave that channel, you know what I mean? So you're more than welcome to, excuse me, you're more than welcome to share your work. Oh boy. Okay, if editor res is null, we're going to return a return result.fail. And we need to turn this into, instead of it returning a string, it needs to return a result. That. Then if there is editor res, then we can say result dot Okay. And then we can say editor res dot feedback. Like that. A noob, curious when your office time starts and when it ends. What do you mean office time? Do you mean like when I go to work? Should I send it in general? Just send it in the projects channel, man. A custom level for a game. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, send it in the projects channel. You might just give people context around like why you built it, what level the game is for, you know what I mean? So people can like properly understand. Rate my progress so far on the Discord where I pinged you. I haven't looked at your project. Let me look. Oh, are you talking about in the projects channel, Lamp? Also, if you guys, for context, if you're new here, we have a Discord, and that's what these guys are talking about. So if you want to join, it's just discord.stephenfreeborn.com if you'd like to join there. Um, I think you're. Hey, Lamp, I'm just looking at the code snippets you posted there. I think it looks fine. I don't even know what that language is or what you're doing. But hey, man, if you're having a blast and you're having a good time, keep going. Um, a noob. Hit like guy. A noob, that's kind. So a noob, my office hours. So usually I work from about 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So pretty standard, typical office hours. Um, the company, I'm really fortunate though. The company I work for the most part, they treat you like adults. So it's kind of one of the benefits of being. So in I don't know where you are in your career, noob, or like if you're younger or older, but in most professional settings, there's kind of two types of jobs. There's jobs that's sort of like project based, where there's kind of one overarching deadline or maybe one overarching deadline with many small milestones. But in terms of like your day-to-day work, having like set office hours doesn't really matter, right? So that's typically things like development or uh, project management, product manager, consultant. There's lots of things where the day-to-day schedule doesn't matter as much as the overall schedule of the project. And then there's work where the hours do matter, right? These are things like support, right, where people are counting on you to be available from these specific hours, right? Or maybe a nurse who works from 7 to 7, right? The kind of these shift work positions. And in my opinion, I've always appreciated having a job that's much more project based because that means that you have much more flexibility over your day to day work, which is the fortunate position I get to be in now. And then the even more fortunate position is um, the company I work for treats us like adults. Like, meaning, what I mean by that is, like I said, they kind of set like deadlines and expectations and deliverables, but for the most part, they let us figure out how to accomplish those, and they trust us to get our work done when it's supposed to be done. So while I say I typically work from like 8 to 5, there's a lot of flexibility there, and there's an understanding that I might not always be at my desk every minute from that 8 to 5, right? So sometimes I might work a little later, sometimes I might work a little earlier, sometimes I might work some on the weekends to make up for some time or some time I missed during the week. But as long as it all comes out in the wash and as long as projects still get done on time, like that's what matters. If a company doesn't treat you as an adult, then it's not a good company. Yeah, I would kind of agree, but you would be surprised at how many companies manage their workforces through sheer presence, right? So they just want to see butts in seats, and how to that's how they know how to determine if people are doing their job or not. That's literally their only metric, is like if their butt is in their seat for 8 hours at expected times, we're good. I mean, that's a huge part of the. I mean, I think that's a huge part of return to office mandates. Is like managerial companies can't figure out how to properly manage or measure employee productivity, engagement, etc. And so it's much easier to just say, well, everyone come back to the office, and if you're here at the office, then we can say that you are doing your job. In case you forgot, I am QA doing mostly manual work. Ah, nice. Well, that to me seems like oh yeah, your JRE flashback. Sorry, the different usernames are hard to keep up with. So manual QA to me seems like one of those jobs where, as long as you get your testing done by the time it's supposed to be done, seems like that's something where you can kind of be allowed to make your own schedule, in my opinion. Creatives, for how many companies have you worked? I mean, not more than 10. I mean, you can go and see my LinkedIn. Well, I guess my LinkedIn doesn't have my whole professional history. It just kind of has more of my most recent, what do I want to say? My LinkedIn just has like my more recent corporate, like the last 10 years or so. Let's see. Starting from the beginning, the first job I worked at when I was 15 was for a restaurant called Quiznos, making sandwiches. This was the first company I worked for. And I had a good time. It was a good first job. Then the second company I worked for was the YMCA. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them. The YMCA of Joplin, Missouri. This is where I worked. My second job was here, and this was an awesome job to get, because this honestly was kind of my first into being able to be a personal trainer. So I knew that if I could get on at the Y, it would be much easier to get certified and then start training people. And so I worked at the Y. Then let's see, I was just a weight room monitor here for the first couple of years. Then after high school, like once I graduated high school and I was 18, I got certified, became a trainer. Then I worked for this gym called the Powerhouse Gym, which is a franchise, but it's a franchise. It's a national brand, but built on a franchise model. So I worked for the Powerhouse Gym that was in my hometown, Joplin, Missouri. So that was 3 companies. Let's see. Then at the same time as I worked at Powerhouse, I worked for a company called Scribe America. I was a medical scribe here. So this company basically was like a contractor for large hospitals or healthcare providers that would basically, you worked for Scribe America, but then Scribe America had contracts with different health providers to provide scribe services, which are basically the people who do all the documentation. So what is that for? At some point I left Powerhouse and I started my own gym called Revolution Strength Conditioning, and let's see if I can still find that website. Let's see, Joplin Fat Loss Gurus.wordpress.com. Yeah, so I started my own company and started a small business where I did personal training with people. Let's see if I can find.
Talk to us about your goals.
Oh my goodness!
We'll talk to you.
Woo! Sorry. This was a lot of fun. This was probably some of the most fun I had. Was working for myself and doing personal training. But I did this for 3 years. Trained people in this little small gym. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then At some point, my first big boy corporate job. I don't know if this is interesting to you guys. My first big boy company job was with a company called Ajinomoto, and not the parent company. I actually worked for Ajinomoto Foods North America is the subsidiary I worked for. And I was a food scientist for this company. And then for like a very brief time, I worked for Midland Construction Company. I was a project manager for them for about 3 months, 4 months, which is a whole story unto itself. They did like millwright construction. I was part of their millwright division mostly. So I'm at, what am I up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different companies. And then finally at the company I work for now, which is OnSpring Technologies, we make like a no-code, low-code platform. Which again, nothing I do on stream, none of my content I make here is representative of any of my employers. But this is who I work for now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different companies across a bunch of different industries. The job I have had now, though, is the first time I've ever been remote. It's also the first job where I really felt like I've been treated like an adult. Like, we trust you will do your work. But yeah, it's been a good career thus far, all over the place. Do companies in the U.S. still hire remotely? I think so. I mean, I think companies hired remote before the pandemic, and I think they'll continue to hire remote after the pandemic. I think some of these large companies doing return to offices have given air cover for people to not have remote work, right? It's kind of a power dynamic when a lot of companies are supporting remote work, it drags the other companies over to remote work, especially big companies. When big companies stop supporting remote work, now other companies can do the same, right? Because the power dynamic shifts towards the employer and away from the employee. So I think it's what am I trying to say? It's like a pendulum, right? And so as market forces change in the world, the likelihood of being able to get a remote job will change. And so you probably just have to be, depending on your situation, you just have to be open to potentially not what do I want to say? You have to potentially be open to not being a remote worker if you desperately need a job. You know, a noob. Why your username says Freeborn? Because that's my name. My name. That's literally my name. Ajinomoto has amazing MSG. Yeah, they were actually the people who founded it. So Ajinomoto was founded by 2 brothers, right? I'm pretty sure it was founded by 2 brothers, or maybe just one guy. But his claim to fame, the guy that started the company, he was the person who invented MSG, if I remember right. Okay, not brothers. Yeah, he was a professor at Tokyo Imperial University, and he wanted to sell MSG. He wanted to commercialize MSG. So that's where the company originated. It's a big, giant company now. Huge company. Revenue in the 1530 billion yen. What is that in US? Net income 80 billion yen. Huge company. $527 billion in net profit? No. As of today, 8 billion euros. 80 billion euros becomes 93. Is that accurate? 93 billion USD. It's a lot of money. Either way you look at it, whether you look at it in yen or you look at it USD, it's a lot of money. Anub, did you take any break before switching to IT? I mean, you stayed jobless and prepared? No, I've never stayed jobless willingly. So there's only been one time in my life where I've only been laid off once, and it was from that scribe job. But lucky for me, at the same time as I was doing the scribe job, I still had my personal training business. So while I lost my hours at the hospital as a scribe, I still had income coming in from my personal training business. So like October of 2015, I think. There was a period from October of 2015 to like January of 2016 where I just had one job, which was the gym, and it was kind of stressful there for a minute because I really did need the two incomes. I needed to try to limit the amount of money I was drawing from the gym because that was all bootstrapped. But yeah, no, I've never been willingly jobless to prepare for a job. I don't understand that mindset myself. My mindset has always been what my parents told me, and that is it's always much easier to um it's always much easier to get a job when you already have a job, and you should never quit a job until you have the next job. So like all my entire career, I've always like I think when I changed jobs from Ajinomoto to OnSpring, I started at OnSpring on August 24th of 2020, and that was like a Monday. And my last day at Ajinomoto was the preceding Friday. So I literally had like 2 days, and then I started the new job. And that's how I've done every job change, career switch has been like that. I I think quitting one job so that you can prepare yourself to take another job. Let's Talk TV. Thanks for the subscription. I think that's just a bad. I think it's a bad move in my opinion. But I mean, if you can financially do it, great for you. I just don't think a lot of people can financially do that. A noob. Sorry if my language is harsh. English is not my first language. No, I don't think your English is harsh at all. To be honest, you're the only guy I know with that surname. I've not met anybody else with it. I mean, other than my family. But yeah, it's a pretty unique last name. I love LAMP. I want to make an OS with GUI and DOS. How do I do so? I found a short demonstrating one, but they haven't posted at all since. Only that short posted in the channel. Help or something. I have no idea how to make an OS, man. That type of programming is like way over my head. I have no idea how people build operating systems. Hey, what's up, Butterscotch? How are you? I'm not going to quit my QA job to be a developer. Thanks, that's great advice. Yeah, I think that's awesome if you wanted to change from QA to being a developer. I think you should definitely do that. I just think you should do it while you're working as a QA, right? So, um, there was another gentleman in my stream earlier this year who was doing like data sciencey stuff at his company, but he wanted to do more engineering things. And the advice I gave him, which I think it seemed to work out based on what he came back and told chat, is my advice was I'm sure there's jobs that you could get as a developer outside your company, but I think that it's worth expressing your desire to move from a QA role to whatever the other role is, whether that be to your boss or to somebody who's already on the development team or someone who's in charge of that team. Express your interest in those things because I think I think if you're at a good place, they'll look for opportunities to get you involved and look for opportunities to give you chances to prove yourself and demonstrate your ability, which will obviously increase your confidence, and it just becomes kind of a flywheel. And then hopefully when they do have an opportunity for you, then you can take advantage of it. You sent me your project. Nice. Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it. For sure I will. Entropic. What education do you have? So my LinkedIn is, if you go to linkedin.stephenfreeborn.com, you can see all my credentials and whatnot. But so formal education is I have a bachelor's degree. Obviously I went to high school, but then I have a bachelor's degree in biochemistry. So just a 4-year bachelor's degree from Missouri Southern State University. All the tech stuff that I know, the programming, the coding stuff, that's all self-taught. Like none of that was formal education. I did take I went through Freed Codecamp's course. So if you guys are familiar with freedcodecamp.org, I've been through all their legacy curriculum. They actually just put out a new curriculum, which I've not done, but I did all their legacy curriculum. That was at the time it wasn't their legacy stuff, right? But now it is. So I did all that. I've taken a bunch of courses on Pluralsight. I've done a bunch of continuing education type things like that, but I don't have a degree in computer science. Ooh, Diwali vacation? Nice, dude. I'm jealous, Butterscotch. I hope you're having a good time, dude. Hey, what's up, Mohammed? How are you? Oh, we got multiple people enjoying Diwali. Let's go. I have an unemployed degree. Yeah, but you're kind of young, man. I don't know, like, are you even old enough to have a job? I mean, I wouldn't classify you as unemployed unless you're like eligible to have a job and you're actively choosing not to. Okay. We need to look at what we're returning here. So you can see this guy takes a chat message and returns a result. So that's what I think I want. But I think I want my editor writer agent response. So right now my writer agent response is just content, but I think I actually want some other metadata here. So I think I'm going to create another, I'm going to call this a blog post. And this is going to become, instead of being content, this is going to become blog post. Like that. That type doesn't exist yet. Excuse me. And this is going to be internal, or hold on, sorry. Namespace casper.console.internal sealed record. Yeah, we can do title, content, and then I want a couple other things. I want string. I want an open graph description, which is something I'll use in my metadata for my blog. And then I want like a slug, like how like on a blog post it has the path, right? Most people refer to that as a slug in the blogging world. So I'm gonna say a slug. That. Why doesn't it like what I'm doing here? Oh. Okay, now the writer agent response should be happy. Which is good. Okay. Then in my editor, so my editor handler, I can now say, you don't take in a string, you take in a blog post. Like that. And then I'll come down and type this as a blog post. And in this case, we don't want to send the whole thing, we just want to send the content is what we want the feedback on. Okay, in which case, if oh, the caffeine is being slow to kick in this morning, I tell you what. I'm 26. Nice, yeah, 26, man. I remember being 26. I'm not that much older. I'm 32, but I remember being 26. 13. Yeah, so that you can't say you're unemployed if you know what I mean? I mean technically yes. Like I think in the United States you could probably technically earn an income at 13. But yeah, I don't think you should consider yourself unemployed. Mohammed, so good. What is your professional, sir? Your professionalism? I'm guessing you're asking what's my job. So if you want to go to my LinkedIn, that's the best place to find all my work stuff. You're welcome to connect with me over there. LinkedIn.stephenfreeborn.com. Would love to network with you. But my day job is as a quality engineer. So I do a whole lot of manual testing and automated testing for a web application, which is kind of an understatement because I say it's a web application, but it's really a platform. So if you think of something like Salesforce or ServiceNow, like if you think of that type of a web application, right? These are like very sophisticated, large platforms that, the client is through a web client. This is actually a very, like, the type of testing we do and the capabilities of our platform make my job very engaging and very challenging. It's not just like clicking on buttons or making sure things are the right colors. Like, that's what makes my job really fun, is because it's sort of like our platform sort of allows you to do development without knowing how to code. So it's very challenging. It's very engaging. But when I say I do testing for a web app, I'm always afraid people are like, "Oh, this guy just all this guy does is he checks to make sure that the pixel of an image isn't too far, 10 pixels too much to the right." Which, granted, there are obviously things like that, but a whole lot of my job is spent around, do all these complex features work together? How do all these complex features integrate? How do new features fit into this existing paradigm? And then from an automated perspective, my automated tests are much more complex. Like, I don't just like fire up a web page, take a screenshot, and diff it against an existing screenshot. Like, our automated tests really simulate like end-to-end user flows, right? Like, um, creating a whole workflow in our business process automation tool. And it's a good gig. I'm happy with where I'm at. Artwork. Sorry if spammy. No, I don't think I did. Well, I don't know. Did you post a link or something? Because I don't see it. I don't see any of your recent messages that are spammy. Let's see. Butterscotch. I need your help. Should I keep my existing projects on my portfolio that are related to web development? But now, as I'm switching to AI ML, I don't have any projects related to it currently. Let's see. One, that's cool. I didn't know you were trying to move from web development to machine learning. To me that seems like a not a big leap because right, it's like engineering, like you know how to code and stuff, but very different disciplines. So I'll be excited to hear about your adventures. As far as like your projects go, if it was me, I would probably leave the projects I currently have on my portfolio up because you don't want. I would think something is better than nothing, but as soon as I could, I would start replacing projects. So like the minute I have a machine learning project or something that demonstrates that skill set or those learnings, I would start swapping out web development projects for AI and ML. And maybe even you have like you could even have like two different portfolios if you wanted, or like maybe two different pages that showcase these two different things and just direct people to what page you want them to go to, right? But yeah, if your goal is to work in a different discipline, then the stuff you have on your portfolio page should demonstrate whatever that discipline is, right? So if you're if you're Abdare, I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to say the rest of your name. I apologize. But thank you very much for the subscription. And I'm sorry that I have I have an American tongue, a very dumb American tongue that can't pronounce names very well. So I apologize. But thank you for subscribing. I see you. What was I saying? I was saying something about. Oh, it's like a photographer, right? So if you're going to hire a photographer for your wedding, and you're looking for a wedding photographer, you do not want to see their portfolio filled with rock climbing, adventure, action sports photography, right? That does not speak to your capability to be my wedding photographer, and vice versa, right? So the same thing should apply, I think, for developers, right? You want to showcase the actual thing, you want to showcase the skills in the context in which you want to actually work. First time using PC to chat is so hard. Yeah, I don't really do much chatting in streams myself. I mean, I appreciate you guys that do, because if I didn't have people that chatted in the stream, this would be a very lonely experience. But yeah, I don't typically chat much in the streams I watch. I find machine learning hard. Yeah, I don't know enough about it to even have an opinion. Seems like you need to know a lot of math. Seems like you need to be very comfortable with linear algebra, matrix multiplication, um, need to be comfortable with like in-dimensional vectors type stuff. Need to have like good mental models to be able to conceptually think about these things. Which I'm sure the more you work in that field, the easier it becomes, just like anything. Like I remember when I was studying biochemistry in school, kind of the class that makes in so most people in the hard sciences, most people come in and they want to be either they won't they'll come in and they'll say I'm gonna be a biology major, I'm gonna be a chemistry major, or you'll have some programs offer biochemistry, which is sort of a little bit of a hybridization of those two things. But it's funny because as you're going through school with other people who are in those 3 programs, almost all those programs have to take some shared courses, and one of those courses is organic chemistry. And that course almost always always decides whether you're going to stay on the chemistry track or if you're going to follow the biology track. Um, and I remember just that class being so difficult and being so foreign at first. But eventually, the more you study, the more you work in it, the more kind of your mental model, your ability to think and reason through those concepts gets easier and easier. So I'd imagine it's the same thing with like the machine learning field. Is like at first the concepts feel really foreign and your mind sort of wants to reject them. But the harder you work and the more time you spend, the less of an issue it becomes. Lamp, did you see my message? Oh, yeah, I saw it. Yeah, you're at 5 out of 10 commands. That's awesome. Way to go. Tired of. Turn off subscription only mode for comments. Seriously, I don't want to subscribe, dude. Well, tired of? You can start your own stream and you can set the comments to whatever fucking. Y'all send thanks for subscribing. You can set the comment mode to whatever fucking mode you want. But it's my stream. And so I think at the very least, if you want to come into my chat and say shit, you should at least have to pony up something. So if you want to subscribe and send some messages and then unsubscribe, you can do that. But I'm not going to have you come into my stream at 5 in the morning and try to tell me what to do. So fuck off. How about that? Nikhil, good luck. AI God will be with ye. Well, maybe the AI gods will be friendly to me because I've tried to leverage them in helpful ways. It's not about you personally. I've been following since the start. Well, that's fine, man. I don't really care if you've been following since the start. I mean, you haven't been following since the start because I've been making content on YouTube for 12 years and I've not seen your name in all those 12 years. So if you've been here since I started streaming recently and started making programming content, that's great. But I don't give a shit that you don't want to subscribe in order to send messages. So either subscribe and you can chat, or don't subscribe and you don't have to chat. So if you don't like that, find someone else's stream. There's lots of people making content on YouTube. So just move along. I'm a 32-year-old dad of 2. My give a shitter is about this big for things aside from my son and my wife. I'm not going to cater to you, unfortunately. I just realized I probably also, yesterday when I was writing this, I said that I probably don't need like a Boolean. And now I'm realizing I probably do need a Boolean. Tired of remember me, right? I do. I've seen your username before in short videos and comments and stuff. That's great. I really appreciate any attention you've given my things, but if you think that somehow translates into being able to dictate the way I run my stream or the content I create, you're just mistaken, man. You're just mistaken. So hopefully you're clear now and it's all sorted out. I think I'm gonna add a flag here that's like needs. I guess is approved is fine. That's fine. And then what I'll do is in my editor, I'll have two different responses. So I'll return a fail, but if editor res.is approved, whoops, dot feedback dot is approved. I don't like that. I'd much rather it be like, I think I'd just rather be like has feedback. There we go. So it has feedback. Then we'll do this. Otherwise, we'll return result.ok, and we'll just pass along the blog post. So the benefit of doing this, the benefit of having, this is where that result pattern really comes in handy. So the benefit of having this result now is, if I go to my workflow, I can now switch on the result. So if we come down to my workflow down here, I can say editor goes to writer if data is not what do I want to say? If data is not, if it's success. Well, I guess failure is fine. And this is if static is failure. Which I think means then in my editor, I think I need to do this. Saba says, why C#? Because C#'s awesome. That's improv. And by the way, I forgot. Which language were you using to code again, Steven? I use C# is what I use. Tired of, dude, I've never subscribed in my life, and now you're forcing me just because I want to drop a casual comment or two. Oh my gosh, how dare I force you to do something? I'm not forcing you to do anything, man. I don't want a bunch of riffraff in my chat. So if you're willing to at least go through the work of subscribing to my channel, that should keep out a majority of the trolls. If that's too much work for you, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Like I said, there's lots of other people on YouTube. You can go hang out in their stream and leave comments and chat and never have to subscribe. But I'm moving on from this conversation, tired of. I'm not going to discuss it anymore. It's likely for the time being my streams will have subscriber only chat. It's low level language and really good for things like these. Yeah, C#, I think C# is great because you can do high level or low level programming. Like there's a whole database that's written in C# called RavenDB. RavenDB. So if you want to build real low level things, you can do that. If you want to just stick at the high level, which is normally where I'm at, I'm just writing managed code for the most part. You can do that as well. But again, you still get all the benefits, right? Like you get all the performance benefits, has a great type system. The language gets new features every year. It's got a really strong ecosystem, lots of packages. So I like C#. I'm a C# evangelist. I'm currently on a mission to try to get more TypeScript developers to try C#. I don't know how successful I've been with that, but that's my good goal at the moment. I use English to code. Fair enough. Fair enough. Should all programmers be able to use Vim, NeoVim? No, I don't. I don't think all programmers need to. I mean, speaking as somebody who writes a lot of C sharp, most C sharp devs just use the they use Visual Studio as their primary IDE, and they use the mouse. They have a very mouse centric workflow, and they're very productive and get lots done. So I don't think programmers need to be able to use Vim or NeoVim. I don't think your tool choice, like the tools that you decide to use to write code, dictate whether you're a programmer or not. I think you should use the tools and find the workflow that you enjoy. The Fed's improv and Steven laughing from the inside saying, free sub, free sub, free sub. Yeah, honestly, I'm okay if people don't sub. Like, I'm okay if people don't want to sub because that means that, or they don't want to sub, and then that means they don't interact in chat. That's fine. It's kind of the fucking point. It's like if you're somebody who doesn't want to go through the process of subscribing to my channel, then I probably don't need you hanging around my channel, you know? So I don't know what else to tell people. Like, that is totally fine. Yo, new here. How's the grind going? What's up, Oz Ints? OS Ints? I'm not sure how I say that username, but yeah, man, the grind is going. It's not much of a grind though. I mean, this is for fun. The minute streaming feels like a grind, you will not catch me streaming. uh, Vim makes my fingers hurt. Interesting. I I mean, I guess I'm lucky for now. I mean, I don't know. I've not been writing code for that long, but I guess we'll see what my fingers feel like in another 10 years or so. Cybersecurity will boom as a result of vibe coding. Yeah, cybersecurity is already booming though, right? So I haven't ignored any of your messages, I love Lamp, but you've got to move on from that, dude. There's no way I'm gonna be able to catch everyone's fucking message, dude. Okay, so what we can do now is we can come back to our program, and we should be able to switch off this. So we should be able to say data is not, let's see, editor to writer, data is failure. I think what we'd want to say is we'd want to say data is feedback, right? And then data is data is success. So how did I make this work? Data is question. I know how I made this work. So for my interviewer, the way I did this was I made a question inherit from exception. Okay. I should probably stick with the pattern that I have here. So, okay. Okay, we'll do that. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna rename this class to feedback. We're gonna change this to an internal sealed class. This is going to inherit from exception. Oh, Copilot, you're making it hard on me, man. What else do I want here? I think I want public feedback. That. And then our agent response is going to have the actual property. So we'll say JSON, property, JSON property name is going to be has feedback. And we'll say bool has feedback. I probably could have copy and pasted this from that other class, but such is life. So then what we'll do is we'll have a constructor. And we'll have another one that's like, we'll add a property here that's like public. I guess comments. It's an array of strings. We'll call it comments. It'll just have a getter and an emitter. We'll set that to an empty array. And I think I'll just make a new constructor that takes in the comments and then sets them. So the whole point of doing this, there's probably somebody that's like, why the fuck are you doing it this way? The whole point of doing this is so that I can basically wire up my graph, my agent, the workflow, that I can wire that all up based on types. And I can basically do pattern matching to figure out things based on having strong types. So if I go to my editor now, what I can do here is I can say, okay, if my editor res has feedback, then what I can do down here is I can say return result dot fail, and I can say new feedback, and then I can pass in those comments. Editor res dot comments like this. Then back at my workflow level, I can then say not is editor feedback, I can just say is feedback. Which means if my editor has feedback, I will route from my editor back to my writer, so my writer can respond to that feedback. If my editor returns a successful message, then we'll route to the critic, which is kind of the next agent in line. So if we go back to my diagram here, this is how we're basically creating the loop here. So it'll go writer to editor. It can go back and forth between the writer and the editor. If the editor finally says, "Hey, it's good," then it will go to the critic. And then we'll have the same functionality between the critic and the writer. And we just need to go implement that. So editor goes to critic. Critic can go to the writer. Otherwise, the critic passes the output. This does mean we need to come back to the writer, though. And we need to implement, let's see, writer. Yeah, we need to implement here. So it's possible now that, so right now our writer, this is how this agent framework works. Oh, sorry, I missed you guys' messages. We don't need more vibe coders. Tired of it. It's not about you personally. I never subscribe to channels. I watch and will unsubscribe. Just wanted to let you know it's a bad call to lock chat behind the sub. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad call, Tired of. So you can start your own channel and run that experiment and try to put your chat not behind subs and see how it goes. Dude, this guy, I mean, the ball's on you, man. It's just, Jesus fucking Christ. 7 out of 10 commands. Good job, Lamp. Lamp is crushing his session today. I'm over here not making very much progress for days on end, and Lamp is just chewing through his work. Mega animations. I'm sorry, what programming language is that? This is C#, which a lot of people like to refer to it as Microsoft's Java. That's what a lot of people will come into my chat and dunk on my C# choice, but I love C#. I think it's a wonderful language, and the more people I can convince to try it, the better. I actually have a kind of a cool idea for a couple videos that's like why JavaScript developers need to know C#. And the whole point of that video is going to be to introduce people to this new technology in .NET called Aspire, which is basically like it's a tool chain to help you build distributed apps, and you use it from the C# language, but you can orchestrate non-C# programs and applications, right? So you can use Aspire to orchestrate your Django backend and your Vue frontend, right? So it's almost like a better version of Docker Compose, which is, granted, that's subjective because I'm sure I think it's better because it's C# oriented, but yeah, call me a C# evangelist, I guess. Busy Slim. So what does your writer agent do? So right now, Busy Slim, basically it's just going to do this. All it's going to do is it's going to take in a topic or an idea. It's going to put it through a few different steps. So it's going to be like, here's what the writer wants to write about. Please do some research for that, right? The point of the research is more just to help ground what the LLM says back or writes. So it'll synthesize from the user what the heck the user wants to write about. It'll pass that to another agent. I mean, an agent is just conceptually it's just a different REST API call with a different prompt, right? then it will take that research, it'll take the topic information, it will pass it to another agent, whose goal is to produce the actual blog post. And then we'll take the blog post and we'll have it edited and critiqued to make sure that it basically to do like a first pass review of it to say, hey, is there big old spelling mistakes here? And then also to make sure that it's somewhat in the tone and style and voice of me based on existing things I've written. And then at the very end, it'll just write out a file that's like a draft post that I can then start to iterate on myself as the human being. It's basically using generative AI for what I think it's really good at, which is solving the blank page problem. I know I want to write about something, but I'm not really sure how to flush my 3-sentence idea into a 5-paragraph post. Or, same thing goes for coding, right? Or development. It's like, I know I have this idea for a thing that I've never done before. What would an implementation of that kind of look like? That's basically how it goes. I think same I think same locking unless sub is a bad idea, because I would not sub if I did not chat with you before. Well, the thing is though, I'm totally okay with taking that risk. I'm totally okay with people being like, I have to sub to chat with this fella. Totally okay with that. My main goal with the chat is to protect the people that are here, the people who have already chosen to subscribe and already chosen to hang out and talk with me. And my goal is to keep people out of my chat that would create a shitty place for people to hang out and talk. And so if that means some people don't sub and don't stick around, I'm okay with that. I'm focused on the people that are already here, that have already shown their support, and making sure the stream stays positive for those folks. So do you define your writer agent with an initial list of context about what it is and what it can do? Yep. So every like agent here that you see in this kind of workflow, which is kind of outdated now, I need to update it. Each one you can conceptually, in your mind, this is conceptually what an agent is, right? No matter what anybody wants to tell you, this is what it is. It's the ability for you to talk to an LLM, and then you're just giving that particular agent, like you said, a very specific prompt, right? Very specific set of context. And then optionally, you're giving it the ability to like perform different functions. Like maybe it can read a file, write a file. In this case, I don't have any of that going on at the moment. It's just prompting. But yeah, in my code, each agent essentially has its own prompt. So there's a prompt for my editor, a prompt for my interview, right? So the interviewer is like the agent that like is talking to the user at the beginning, trying to distill out what the heck they want to write about. And there's a prompt for the researcher, there's a prompt for the writer. Each one has its own context. With the added context of the previous outputs, right? So like when I send it over to the writer has its like system level prompt instruction, but then it also gets the context of like, here's the research that was done, here's the topic brief that was finalized. Way to go, Lamp. Just flying through those commands, man. Keep it up. I don't write like that. I would just write my Obsidian notes, and if I start writing, I have notes. Blah. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think I need more coffee. I think that's the play at the moment, is to go get more coffee. Although I should probably test and see if my editor works. let's see. Let's add a test for my, excuse me, writer agent test. Let's add a test for each of these. Editor agent test. Go here, put that there. This namespace needs to change. This is going to be my writer. Also, why is it... Do I have it spelled wrong? I promise I'm a native English speaker. Why is it writer versus editor? Whoops. Like, why is it ER versus OR? Why ER versus OR? This is probably something I should have learned in like the first grade. The OR suffix is primarily found in words derived from Latin, whereas ER can be put on the end of just about any verb that involves an agent. Interesting. Creator, yeah. I wonder why. I guess just because it's derived from Latin, that's the only reason. That seems very arbitrary. That seems very arbitrary, but okay. We'll give the Latin people their due. Okay, and then we're going to write a test for this guy. Busy smart. I guess you're using MPC from limit to start the agent. No, I'm using a framework that Microsoft just released called Agent Framework. So that's how I'm wiring all this up together. This is kind of like if you're familiar with things like LangChain or semantic kernel. This is like Microsoft's newest library or SDK for developing these types of agents, these types of workflows, and then all of it's embedded in just a simple C# console app. So if I go Control Shift T. Yeah, so if you go, let's see, if I go to my program CS file, this is all just hosted in your typical .NET, well, you may not be familiar. I'm not sure, Busy Slim, if you're familiar with C# or .NET, but it's all just created using a default host, and then I'm just running it using this workflow API that the agent framework provides. So this workflow API they have is basically how you can take agents and sort of wire them together to do more complicated workflows. And this will just run on the command line for now. So if I fire it up, .NET, let's make sure it builds. So if I do .NET run the console app, the first thing it will do is it will no type. Oh, well, if I actually register things correctly, so I need to add a singleton here. Services.add singleton. That. Now, if I run it, so the first thing it will do is this right here is actually the interview agent. This is the agent whose directive is to ask questions like a ghostwriter to say, what is it you want to write about? What are the points you want to get across, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a user I can provide input here. And my goal is to make this the GUI or the TUI, the terminal interface, much nicer. But right now it's just a simple command line prompt. But that's how it'll work. Write when you feel you learned something. I think that's good advice. One, write notes when start writing blog. You have notes, not a blank page. Yeah, but like at some point, right, you'd still need to take those notes and synthesize them into like structured writing. And that's the whole point of like a ghostwriter. Again, like going back to this idea that people like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, right? These people have ideas, they have opinions, but they aren't necessarily professional writers, nor do they want to be professional writers, right? But they still want to have content that's written. They still want to have written content to share. So having somebody, or in this case, having an LLM, in my case, that can take your thoughts or take your opinions and synthesize them into a draft that is an actual rough draft of something that you could then whittle down into a final post is valuable. So while I can't afford to pay or hire a ghostwriter myself, my thinking was, well, can I leverage an LLM to create that same experience? That's the goal. I know that this can be accomplished in other ways. Like, just to be clear with everybody, I know that like I could just talk to ChatGPT, or like I could do what Suha says and just have notes, and then I could spend my time converting the notes into a blog post. I know that's all possible. The whole point of building software, though, is to try to help solve your problem with code, right? So that's what I'm doing. Do you have this on GitHub so we can try to understand also? Yeah, for sure. I think the link's actually in the description of my stream. But I can give you the link directly in chat. Here you go. And then the branch that I'm on is there's only one other branch in that repo besides main. So you're welcome to look at that. Did you see my message? God dang, Lamp. I swear you're gonna wear me out, bro, with the whole like, did you see my message? Did you see my message? You're gonna wear me out, dude. That's fantastic, dude. I'm glad you got your commands converted. I hope you're having a blast. I'm glad you're having a good time. All right, I'm gonna go get coffee. Control Shift split pane up. Oh my goodness. All right. I'll be right back. Oh, also, if you are somebody who likes C#, you should go check out this agent framework. It is very cool. What's funny is the best part about it, I think, is not the agent APIs, but it's the workflow APIs. This right here is in my opinion, is the best part about the whole framework. Let's see. And I just put the link to the agent. The agent framework link is in the description of my stream, but I just put it in chat too for you. Remember, you can sack an agent. If he isn't up to the task, hire a better one. I had to ask ChatGPT from a humorous point of view the other day. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, it's much easier to swap in and out LLMs than it is people, which is either really dystopian or kind of good. Which I guess I should say, like, if I had money, I would totally hire an intern for my blog. Like, if I could afford, if I could afford to have like a proper ghostwriter and be like, hey, your job is to just constantly watch all my shorts, all my streams, watch my blue sky, and anytime I post something or share something and you think you can turn that into a blog post, please do. Please draft the blog post and send it over to me. For actually, what I would probably do is I would hire him and I would tell him to do that, and then I would say every time you have a new draft blog post, just stick it in this Google Drive folder, and then that way I just have like a running list of things I can potentially publish on my blog. If I could do that, I would. It's just I'm married. I have 2 kids. I'm trying to save for retirement. I don't have extra money to be hiring other humans to be doing this work. So I'm trying to leverage the tools and abilities that I do have to accomplish this. Andalons. I could do this. Yeah, but I mean, would you though? Would you, Andalons? Because it sounds nice now, but what happens if I'm like, hey, I'm not going to pay you anything? Because I'm not going to pay anybody to do this. Like I'm not going to spend money on it. But if you'd like to do that for free and you feel like you could do it, join my Discord, send me a message. But I'm not looking to hire anybody and pay them to do it. I put my Discord in the chat. Okay, I'm going to get coffee. Experience is gold. Yeah, man. Hey, if you wanna ghostwrite blog posts for me, hey, just I will probably whittle what you write, and of course I'm gonna post it because it's gonna be my content. But if you wanna do work like that, send me a message on Discord. You'll be competing with Gemini. Cool. Yeah. All right. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some. So like a flow chart with branches, I imagine the agent workload can branch also. Yeah, it's arbitrary. Yeah, so you can use that workflow API. It's kind of an arbitrary. You can create a sequence. You can create branching logic. You can do all kinds of things. They have a bunch of examples of how you can use this workflow API. Conditional edges, you can run things concurrently. You can add human in the loop checkpoints where you want the workflow to stop and get input from the user. Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's very, very, very cool. I'd like to make a YouTube video on it. Something like Microsoft just released an agent framework, but the agent isn't even the best part, Like what's cool about I think what's cool about this workflow API is it's agnostic of anything to do with LLMs. Like you don't the workflow the nodes in your workflow can execute arbitrary code. It doesn't have to talk to an LLM. It doesn't have to be an agent. Like there's a lot of examples in their code where they're not even interacting with AI stuff. So you can have a mixture, right? So you can have parts of your workflow that are agentic in nature. You can have parts of your workflow that are deterministic, just deterministic code that you've written. It's pretty cool. Like, I think in the conditional edge ones, they actually show this. Well, this one's using AI to do spam detection, but there's another example where oh, this is new. Builder.addSwitch. This is a new API. I didn't see this earlier. Oh, and I should say this framework is actively still being developed. It's not even like at a release. I think it's still in pre-release. So if you do work with it, be prepared to be broken. All right, I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna turn up the music just a little bit, so watch your ears. I don't want to hurt your ears. And I'll be right back. And I'm about halfway through the stream. I usually stream till about 7 o'clock, and then I hop off. And I'll just teach me to become a better coder, and we have a deal. Yeah, see, man, that's the thing. I mean, I'm happy to like interact, or I'm happy to give like feedback on coding through the stream and through Discord and stuff. But like, yeah, probably no one-on-one type of thing here. Time is limited as it is. I appreciate you being willing to do stuff like that, but my plate's too full to be able to commit to some sort of dedicated time. Do we have a deal? No deal. No deal, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to say I'm going to do something and then not do it. All right, I'm back. Oh man, Ondalams got salty, didn't he? He said, "Strange, you want free work yet help others is an issue." Fuck you, man. I didn't say I wanted free work. You offered, motherfucker. What an entitled asshole. He was like, "Hey, I'll do that. I'll do that for you." And then when I was like, no, I'm not gonna. I literally said I'm not looking to pay somebody. And then he asked for payment in the form of me helping him with stuff, and then he got pissed because I mean, what? What the fuck is that? Strange. If you knew who I really was, that tone would have been different. Take care, though. Who is this guy? Uh, he's got 5 subs in one video. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. See you, Artwork Studios. Have a good day. YouTube is full of just the weirdest fucking vibes, man. I know from a while back you integrated Gemini as the LLM, but is that paid service? Could we use something like Ollama or LM Studio for the LLM aspect too? You could most definitely do that. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, and we touched on it yesterday actually. So I do have Ollama installed on my machine, and I've played around with running local model or using models locally. And so the nice thing about this agent framework that I shared with you guys is it's built on a common abstraction layer. It's built on something called Microsoft.extensions.ai. So this provides basically a common, oh, it thought that was a website. This provides a common layer of abstraction that people can implement libraries against. So there's a Gemini library that implements it. There's an Anthropic library that implements it. There's a Azure OpenAI implementation for it. So the benefit there is you can swap out models, right? So you can build with the agent framework, or you can really just build your application based on this abstraction, and you can swap LLMs in and out as you see fit. And so the good thing there is that there is an abstraction for Ollama. So if you look at some of their examples, they actually show that. So let me see if I can find an example where you can do that. I'm not using Ollama. So Gemini can be a paid service. They have a very generous free tier. In my opinion, the free tier is very generous, but you can also pay for, more use, more if you have higher needs or more usage needs, you can definitely pay for that as well. I'm already, full disclosure, I'm already a Gemini customer, so I pay to use Gemini as part of my Google subscriptions, but you could use Anthropic or whatever LM of your choice. I don't use Ollama locally really because I don't have any dedicated hardware to actually make it a good experience. It'll work, but the inference is really slow. And inference is already slow, even if you're using one of these leading edge foundational models. The inference times on these things are slow anyways, right? You're talking about 5, 10, 15, 30 seconds, depending on how big the context window is. So to recreate that type of inference speed locally, you need pretty beefy hardware. All right, let's see if I can find an example for you. Yeah, so here's an example where they're using Ollama. So basically this right here, this API client, right, has an extension method that creates an AI agent. And this type, the AI agent type, Arrowwise, thanks for the subscription, I appreciate you. This AI agent type is another common abstraction. There's also this Ollama Sharp package right here. It also implements another abstraction that's called I think it's called a chat client is the name of the type that you have to implement. So you might, if you're interested in using Ollama, you might check out Ollama Sharp. But you can definitely do that. 4090 seems pretty fast. Oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah, I don't have a 4090. I'm not working with any dedicated GPU stuff. So this is the machine I mostly stream and develop on when I stream. So I'm just working with integrated graphics here. So no dedicated hardware for me. But that's one of the bones I have to pick with local LLMs when people are like, "Hey, you don't need to pay for inference. You can just run it locally." But then people are like, "Yeah, but you need a 4090 to make it good." And it's like, well, how much does a 4090 cost? Let's see, 4090. $2,000 is what looks like Amazon has it priced at. Yeah, $3,000. So you can run inference locally. Just go grab yourself a 4090. I just kind of take issue with that. So I personally have the opinion that most local model running, unless you're willing to invest several $1,000s worth into hardware, is kind of a party trick, in my opinion. And then you have to deal with all the self-hosted things, right? You have to figure out where you're going to run, what machine you're going to run the model on, how you're going to connect to it, expose it. For someone who's technical, I get it. That's not a big deal. But for the average person, setting up a model running locally is just, it's kind of a tall task. So I will happily just continue to use the hosted models. And I use them all, Gemini, Anthropic. I haven't used OpenAI that much, which is kind of funny because they're the original. But I really haven't used their API all that much. I think I used it on one project 2 years ago, maybe. Where was I? I don't remember. I think I was getting ready to write some tests. Oh yeah, I showed you the Olama Sharp thing. We were talking about that. Let me close some of these tabs. You gotta have good. Oh, that's what I was gonna show you. The other example they have in here that's kind of interesting is they actually have an example using the Onyx runtime. The Onyx model, which is kind of cool. So this is actually just a model that you can put locally on your machine and load it up. So this is this Onyx runtime. This is a particular format that people can create models, put machine learning models into, and then you can just load up that file from disk, and you're off to the races. I actually use this on a not that specific implementation, but I used the Onyx runtime on a project that I created a few months ago and it worked awesome. So it's kind of cool that you can do this. Where is it? Here we go. I built a tool that does background removal, and I use the Onyx runtime for this. So it'll actually this is just like a local console app that runs locally on your machine, and it will do background removal like this. And I use the Onyx runtime for that. I just downloaded these. They're literally just files that you download. You stick them on the machine. They have to be in this format, but then you can use them, which is pretty cool. I found all of them, all the models I used in this project I found on Hugging Face. It's pretty sweet. All right, back to the code. Nice. Yeah, that was a really fun project, actually. I had a guy reach out to me through email yesterday asking about it. It looks like he works for some sort of automotive company. And so he was asking me if I knew where you could find machine learning models that do like car part detection, which I thought was like very oddly specific. I was like, well, I would guess that most machine learning models that do object detection can figure out what's a car part, but maybe he has a very specific use case in mind. Um, who knows? It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool though to get people to people that reach out to you. H Worker, thanks for the subscription. It's kind of cool to get people who reach out to you and are like, "Hey, I saw that project that you shared online. Um, could you help me figure out how to do X, Y, Z with it?" I used RMBG using Pinocchio. What's that? Pinocchio? I always like it when chat calls out new things for me to Google. Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a one-click launcher for any open source project. Think of it as a terminal application with a user-friendly interface that can programmatically interact with scripts. Is this what you're talking about? Or have I found myself to the wrong place? But yeah, RMBG is one of those, is a really good model for doing background removal stuff. It's crazy that those types of models are just available for you to use. Makes installing AI apps super easy. Okay, very cool. Yes, that's it. Okay. Huh. I'm not 100% sure how you would use it, but open audio, multilingual text-to-speech with voice cloning. This looks kind of cool. One click. So I'm not sure I understand though. What does Pinocchio do? It just parses a script or something? It parses JSON. The script can run anything, just like terminal apps can run shell scripts. Downloads files and execute them. Huh. I might have to explore this a little bit. Like, I guess I'm curious why people would use this versus just publishing their own application. Is it just easier to build an app that runs with Pinocchio? No, man, I'm not. Hey, Lamp, I'm never gonna be mad at you guys. Again, like this is the internet. We are strangers to one another. Like, I'm not like, you shouldn't be worried if I'm upset, and probably I shouldn't be worried if you're upset. But no, you're fine to continue to report your progress on your work if you want in chat. If that helps keep you accountable and gives you momentum, keep going. It's not going to bother any of us. Busy Slim. Click the person you want, click install and run it. It containerized the AI app. Interesting. I'll have to poke around. At it. Just easier to install. Don't have to do manual installation. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so we have our feed. So we have two paths here. We have a feedback path and a success path now from our editor. So I think I want to add a couple tests though for the agents I've worked on so far. So I need a test for my writer agent, and I also need a test for my research agent. So let's go here. I already have one. So this is my research agent test. This is basically the only thing this is doing is it's basically just it's just validating that I can actually make a call and get a response. I mean, that's all that integration test is doing. It's not doing any evaluation on the response. That'll be a separate thing. This is more of a does it work thing, right? It's like a smoke test. Run async when called. It should return a response. I'm also planning on using these tests to help capture responses from the LLM that I can use in other testing. So let's add one for the writer. Let's see. So the writer, what does the writer need? The writer needs a couple things. So we need a writer brief is what we need. So let's go over here to our private, read-only, writer brief. New. Yeah. Okay, so let me get both of those first. So we'll go. Let me see. Comment that out. I don't like this song. Your struggle with integrated graphics, as these have quite beefy hardware requirements mostly. Yeah, fair enough. That's totally fair. Yeah, I'm okay with being pushed out of the beefy graphics requirement land. Maybe one day. I just don't do much with, like, I don't play PC games. Like, if I play video games, I mostly play on my Xbox. And I really don't have an appetite to run inference locally at the moment. But maybe that'll change, and then I'll be talking to you guys about how I spent $3,000 on GPUs so I can run Olama. Or I shouldn't say that you need a $3,000 GPU to run the Olama, because you don't. But if you want to run the Olama API and actually use it as like a service provider, you know, you need some dedicated hardware. I'll have to record, so I'll mute the stream. See, I love lamp. I meant for the you didn't see my message thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get upset with you. I'm just letting you know that, like, when you constantly send when you send a chat message, and then you follow that up by being like, "Did you see my message?" So, it's not the most, like, I don't know what you want to say. It's not the most not annoying thing someone could do. I really do try my best to keep up with all the with the messages. I know I don't have, like, the Primogen level incoming of messages, so I try to keep up with the ones that come in. But if I do miss one, it's not because I was ignoring you. You know, I missed it, and I'm human. I'm not an AI. I'm not perfect. Okay. All right. Let's go down to our tests here. Okay, so I need a couple different things. Let me run this test first. Hopefully this still works. Why didn't that run? Get your boss to give you a good machine. So you use your work machine to do personal development on? That's something I do not do. So yeah. I mean, I have a good development machine for work, but I don't use it for personal stuff. Neither the two shall mix. People say, "Oh, you're a gamer" to me, and I say, "No, I run AI." Well, that's completely fair. That's completely fair. I more admit I don't have any dedicated GPU just from the standpoint of like normally that's why you would have a GPU is because you game, right? You already have it so you can use it. But if you're going out and buying it specifically so you can run AI locally, I understand. But to me, that's not worth spending $3,000 personally. I'll just use the provider's API. Pay for what I use. I'm not using $3,000 worth of inference in a year. If I ever get to that point, then maybe it will make sense to buy my own dedicated hardware. First desktop machine at the start of this year in over 20 years. Always used to buy laptops in between. Yeah, this is the first desktop computer I've had in a long time too. I've always purchased laptops for me it's not 20 years, but last 10 years, last 12 years. Well, I guess basically ever since I've had a computer. I got a MacBook when I first graduated high school. That was like my first personal computer. And I've just upgraded laptop after laptop after laptop. Hello, Gun Highs. Good to see you, man. And Arvin's here too. Some friendly faces. I like it. It's nice to see you guys. I hope you all are doing well. We've had quite an interesting stream this morning. For the most part, it's been pretty chill. But we've had a couple fellas in here who have tried to stir the pot a little bit, which has kind of been interesting. There are multiple, hold on, there's additional resources, examples, expert opinions. I feel like I have multiple. Huh. Why is this is what I want. This is the right kind of response that I want from the researcher, but why is there disturb the puddle? Oh, I need to rewind. Yeah, I mean it's not been anything bad. It's just been people kind of like there's one guy who was accusing me of trying to get people to work for free, and then there was another guy who was telling me that I shouldn't have my stream and subscriber only chat. So we've had some people in here mixing it up, you know. I mean, they got as good as they got as good as they gave, so okay, it almost looks like I have a recursive, so additional resources, that's correct. Research points. Oh, I see why. Yeah, so each one of these has, so we have power of the .NET ecosystem. So each key point has its own. I don't even remember my own data structures. I Okay, so each key point in the array of points has all of these things. Which now that I'm looking at it might kind of be overkill. But this is basically what I want. So this information is supposed to be used to ground the writer. Which is cool. Generics are a common feature in both C# and TypeScript, enabling code reusability and type safety for collections and methods. Okay, very cool. So I want to take all of this. And I basically want to use this in my test. So I need, this is going to become like test data. And it's really cool though when you start seeing like, because I'm seeing my whole the thing I've had in my head, right? I'm starting to see it come together. That's always a really cool feeling. We probably need to create maybe like where should this live? Maybe we create a namespace for this. So I have integration, I have unit test. Maybe we create like test.data. So let's say new folder, new file, new folder, data, test data. And we'll just put all the test related things in there. I hear my wife upstairs. She's getting the lunches made. My biggest misconception was a 3070 Ti mobile, not the same as desktop 3070 Ti. That was the tipping point to go back to desktop for me. Well, I would agree that is very confusing. The graphics card thing, the cards have the same numbering system, but different form factors for the different places where that card's gonna live. And then obviously then that means the cards have different performance profiles. I've only actually owned one computer that had a dedicated GPU in it, and it was a Zephyrus G14. I still have it. It's upstairs. I don't use it. My wife primarily uses it. She uses it to play video games, and then she, just as like her personal laptop. But this was the only machine that I actually bought that had a dedicated GPU in it. And this was I think this was a 2021 model, maybe? Or 2022 model, I can't remember. I think this is the exact model I bought. And yes, I bought this because I thought I was going to try giving PC gaming a go, and I hated it. I hated gaming on the PC. I did not like it. Gun heist. Nah, you never use someone to work for free. But wait, isn't that what open source is about? Anyways, trolls happen, like the Down syndrome one. Ugh. Yeah. I don't know why people like to spend their time being like that. Today's thing wasn't really so much troll behavior, it's just so much as people kind of being assholes about stuff, Such is life though, right? Yeah, the whole open source work for free thing is I have a bone to pick. I love open source, but I have a big bone to pick with the open source community because the open source there's a big portion of the open source community who thinks open source work means free work. And I just fundamentally disagree. I'm curious to hear if other people in chat disagree with me on that too, because I've gotten into arguments with people about it. But I don't agree that open source work means it is free work. I believe people can provide work that's open source and they can charge for that work. They can also provide different levels of service, right? They can provide some work that's open source, which is freely available and free to use and generally very permissibly licensed. And then they can also provide work that's paid, that's more restrictively licensed. I think that's totally fine. People are full of hatred and overall shittiness. Maybe that's loneliness. I don't know what it is, honestly. I really don't know. I mean, that's why I try to remind people that, like, this content, streaming, YouTube, chat, like, this is fun, but none of it's real. This is not, like, your internet life is not your real life. And if you're trying to satisfy having a real life by having a lot of internet life, you're gonna be sadly let down, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe people disagree with that, but that's been my experience. Is like, you've got to keep these things in perspective. Perspective, yeah. It's like, who knows? What I want to call this? I think I want to call this like I mean, I could just call it like test data factory, or I could call it yeah, what could I call this? File, maybe I do this. I'll do files. And then I'll have something in here that's like test data factory or something. I don't know what the right name is for this. I'm gonna call this research brief.json. And let's take this guy and let's just dump this in. Oh, actually, I don't need this. I just need this. And then what I can do in my factory is I can then casper.console.test.data, and then I'll just do an internal static class that's test data factory. And this guy will just be responsible for providing my tests with different pieces of test data. Also, I'm kind of debating if I want this to come from a file. I might just want this to be in my code. It's probably easier though to just read it from a file, honestly. People who think open source means free work or free support haven't seen opinionated open source maintainers. They will be humbled real quick. Yeah, it isn't, and for me, it's like, even if your opinion is open source work means free work, and when somebody changes an open source project to have some sort of commercial viability, right, some sort of commercialization model, if you exercise your opinion by simply just not using that project anymore, you're 100% in your right. I've got no issue with that. The people I have an issue with is the people who then turn around and start shitting on the maintainers or the creators of the open source project because that maintainer or creator wants to actually make their project economically viable. That's the part I have an issue with. That somebody feels so entitled to someone else's work. They feel they have a right to that stuff for free, that somebody, like, they have, like, it's almost like a moral dilemma that somebody should want to make a living from the thing that they put their blood, sweat, and tears into. And I just, that I chafe at that, you know. Like I saw this happen in the .NET ecosystem. I saw this happen twice this past year. I saw it happen with AutoMapper. It also happened with Mediator. Both of those are Jimmy Bogart projects, and it also happened with I forget the other .NET project that basically introduced a commercial licensing model this year. It was some sort of eventing framework. Crap, I can't remember, but the vitriol that these people, these are, and what's crazy is it's like these people that are being turned on are people that have been contributing freely, right, to the .NET ecosystem for years. They've been contributing. And then after a decade, they decide, you know what? In order to keep working on this, I need to justify it and I need to make some money off of it. And immediately, people are just like, you're a sellout, you're this, you're that, yeah. I think that's a horrible way to treat other human beings. I'm really happy that I found you. Good to chat. Good to find out new things. Well, I appreciate that, Gun. It's very nice of you. A noob. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. JRE Flashback. Thank you guys for saying that. I appreciate having you here. Busy Slim. Brilliant stream. I wasn't expecting to go all into Agent Framework, but I definitely going to try it later today, I think. Yeah, I think it's awesome. So we've been working on some agentic AI stuff at work, and for the last couple years. And when Agent Framework dropped, I grabbed the link and I immediately sent it to one of my colleagues at work that's on the development side of the house and was like, look, man, Microsoft just dropped the thing that we spent the last 2 years creating, because obviously whenever you build like an agentic, something that's LLM powered, once you start to integrate LLMs into your applications, almost everybody ends up recreating their own kind of agent like framework, right? Because architecturally you need something like that to organize your code, to manage the prompts and the tool use and all that stuff. And he was like, when he saw the agent framework, he was like, well, now I just want to rip out everything we spent the last 2 years working on and rebuild it using this, because there's value to building on a framework that other people are building on, right? It's the same reason people use ASP.NET. It's the same reason people use Vue or Nuxt or Net, right? It's just, instead of recreating all these things from scratch and then having your own bespoke way of doing things, it's 9 times out of 10, it's much better to just build on top of something has an established way of doing business that other people are also using. 9 times out of 10, it's a better way to go. See you, Gun. Have a good day, man. Appreciate you stopping in. Arvin, I personally used to be so bitter when something happens in OS world that I don't like, but then I realized those stuff aren't easy. They are providing those software without obligation to fit my needs. Now that I am a programmer myself, I get over the fact that OS requires significant effort, and if one doesn't like something, I'm supposed to put the effort and not go bitter on maintainers. Developing and maintaining OS takes a shit ton of effort. It does, exactly. And I think that's why I revolt, or I kind of gag at people that act that way, because it's like, one, you're not paying for any of it. Two, these people are doing this in their own time. Likely a lot of these open source maintainers and creators have other jobs, other responsibilities. They probably have families, kids, sick parents. Like, they have a whole life outside of the myopic view that you have of them. They have a whole life, and a part of that life is providing open source software, right? Working on open source software. And then this myopic view of like, you're the only one that matters. Like there's in the case of something like Linux, right? There's millions of people who use this thing. There's no way they can satisfy every person's individual need. And then lastly, it's like, it's open source. If you want it to work different, if you want it to be different, you want to have your own version of it, whatever, fork it, modify it, change it, make it your own. If you know what I mean, like if you have opinions, go build your own version of it. Like that's the part that I just kind of feel like is people being lazy and shitty to other human beings for almost no reason. And this has been my TED Talk on the problems of free open source work. Yeah, I'm okay. So if I do this here, then that means I need to actually copy all this stuff to the output. And then I also need, yeah, so I have to edit this, and I need to also copy. I need to add a new item group here, and I need to say update. And I'm pretty sure I can do like data / files, and I'm pretty sure I can do a glob pattern here, can't I? So I think that means when I build this, all the files will get copied to the bin, which is what I want. So let's build this really quick. Yep. So now if there's other test files or other things I want to put here, those can just skip those. I can just add them there and they'll always be copied to the output. And then in my test data factory, that allows me to basically read in these files, these test files, and create test data arbitrarily. So let's add a method here that's like private async how do we want to do this? What do we want to return? I guess that's the question. We're basically gonna have something like get test file like that, and then we're gonna need probably the file name. But the question is, what do I want to return this as? Do I want to return this as like a stream, I guess, as a file stream? Or maybe I just want to return this as text. I don't know. Let's do, okay, so we'll say var, we'll do var path is going to equal path dot combine. And we're going to combine the file name with the directory. So say private. I don't really probably need to put those in constants, do I? So I can say app context dot base directory. And then this is going to be data files, I think that's what I want. So it should run, when this code runs, it should run from the bin folder. It should run from this root folder here. So we'll go into data, into files, and then grab whatever the passed in file name is. And then we'll say return file dot read. I don't think I want to read all text because or maybe I do. Maybe that's fine. Read all text and just pass in the path. This will be a task of stream. Why is this complaining? Since this is an async method, the return expression must be of type string. Oh. I don't need the async modifier. Okay. Which means then here what we can do is we can say private basically I want to read that file in and convert it to the C# object and then give it to my test. That's essentially what I want to do. But I want this to be reusable so I can have other test files in there. Also, I'm kind of losing steam. Busy Slim. Await? You can't await, but Alila? Sorry if I messed up your name, but thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. It's very kind of you. I don't think I need to wait if I'm just going to return the underlying task from the file, the read all. So you could definitely do it that way, right? You could write it like, you could say async here, and then you could await down here. You could write it like that. But in this case, since I'm not doing anything besides just propagating the result up, I'm just going to write it without the async modifier. What was the most tedious thing you have learned? Oh, shit. Well, yesterday I spent like 2 hours in the evening fucking around with TrueNAS and access control lists on file systems. That was really shitty. Yeah, that was really shitty. That was apparently there's 2 different types of access control lists in the TrueNAS world. They use a POSIX based access control list, but there's also an NFS v4 access. So that's the one that comes to the most mind was that's the most recent thing that comes to mind is yesterday wanting to bang my head against the wall because I couldn't figure out how to properly configure an access control list to a share from TrueNAS. I don't know if it was tedious. You said tedious, so what? Nothing tedious comes to mind. The couple things that come to mind that were difficult, maybe not tedious, but difficult to learn. The first one that comes to mind is recursion. Recursion for me was difficult to wrap my head around. I knew what recursion was for the longest time, and I could explain it, but it was really hard for me to mentally conceptualize it, to actually hold the call stack, think about the call stack in my mind. And the only reason that changed was the thing that changed that was writing a tree, a file system tree. So you know how on the sidebar of a lot of tool, just like in VS Code, right? This thing. I had to implement this kind of a data structure, this kind of a display view for the sidebar of a website I built, and I did it recursively. And that was the thing where I finally conceptually was now I can see it. Now I can picture it in my head. The other thing that took a long time, not a long time, but the other thing that kind of fucked me up at first when I was learning to program and code was pass by reference versus pass by value. That took a little bit for me to commit to memory early on when I was learning to code, because I was what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean pass by reference, pass by value? And the person that had brought that up to me was a guy named Scott Allen. Yeah, I think his name was Scott Allen. He taught a Pluralsight course on C# basics. And I remember the first time hearing him say those words and thinking, I have no fucking clue what you mean. But then over time, then I understood. for me, the thing that drove home pass by value versus pass by reference was passing in like an array or like a list to a function, and that function adding or removing things from that list, right? And then it was like, oh, now I get what you mean. Now I see why passing by reference is important to be aware of. I mean, there's always new things all the time. Somebody in chat yesterday was talking about time series language models. Have you guys heard of these things? Pablo, one of the frequent chatters that stops by my stream, he said he's interested in time series language models. So these are machine learning models. These are machine learning models that understand time series data and can make predictions about that data. So they can basically do what like a data scientist would normally do with a given data set, but the models do it, I guess, with all the with less ceremony. It's just baked into their training, which I thought was kind of interesting. I still don't quite know what that would look like in a use case, right? So there's always things like this that I hear people talk about, and like I understand the words that are coming out of the people's mouths, but actually like owning that knowledge takes me a little bit of time. So I don't think that was a very good answer to your tedious tech question, but those are the two things that come to mind where early on when I was programming and coding, I was like, God, recursion, and then what the hell do you mean reference versus value? Hi, I missed the first guy's name, Shahab. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you both for your subscription. I appreciate you guys. It's very kind. Arvin, predicting human behavior. Yeah, that was what Pablo was trying to, like, he was telling me, like, there's applications in, like, healthcare, there's applications in, like, the stock market was one people kept bringing up yesterday during the stream. Which, obviously, if there are applications for something in the stock market, you better believe Wall Street's going to figure out how to make this work. Okay, so let me start with my public method here. So let's say I want something that's like public research brief, and let's say I want to call this, or actually this is going to be a writer brief. And let's say I want to call this test writer brief, right? I need to go and get that brief. Go get brief. Or actually, hold on. Let's say like this is a research brief. So the idea would be here we do something like var JSON equals await get test file, and this would be research brief.json. We need to make this async. We need to have this return task. This also needs to be a method call now. And then here we do something like return JSON serializer dot deserialize to a research brief like this. Why is this complaining? No overload for method deserialize takes, oh yeah. Gotta pass in the JSON. Possible, oh yeah. So then if there's nothing here, if this doesn't work, then we want to throw new Or I guess we could throw an exception. Unable to parse test research brief from file. Cannot declare instance members in a static class. You're right about that. And then this needs to become static down here. That's fine. This can all be static, honestly, or at least at this moment. I'm not planning to like inject anything. Okay, and then the idea would be here over in my writer brief. We can do research. And we can take this and put this in our test data factory too. This is basically just having a centralized place, right, to reference these things. So we can say private read-only, and we can make this public. Public, static, read-only. And we'll rename this, we'll call this test topic. And you might say, well, why have this be a static member that you're newing up in your code versus the research brief, which I'm reading from a JSON file? Purely just programmer laziness that I don't want to take everything that's in this JSON file and stick it into my source code. That's the only reason. So now here we can remove this, and then we can say var topic brief equals test data factory dot test topic brief dot toString, like this. And we can just replace this here. Topic brief. Topic brief message. And then we can reuse that here. Excuse me. I have encountered a lot of things that were hard that I have gotten past them, but most tedious thing I have to learn is databases. Man, this stuff is boring. The most tedious thing that I don't have to learn is CSS. I tried to become a full stack developer, stuck upon CSS, changed my mind. Nah, I don't want to work with this stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of backend developers, they will probably tell you that they like doing backend development because they avoid CSS. There's actually one guy I work with that I know he is, quote, verbatim said that to me. I don't find CSS that annoying. I totally understand how it can feel difficult to wrangle, especially when you start talking about like the CSS specificity rules, like what overrides what. Totally get that. But yeah, I don't mind CSS too much. Learning databases is hard for me by the virtue of the fact that I find them boring and they get on my ADHD dopamine depletion nerve. Yeah, learning anything, right, is kind of predicated on your interest in it. You know, that's why I always tell people who say they want to learn how to program or code, I always tell people, like, you should just go try to learn JavaScript, right? Just sit down and just like try to write an HTML page. Like, do you actually find this enjoyable? Do you find any of it interesting? Because if you don't, the likelihood of you actually taking the amount of time it takes to learn it is not very high. right? So the faster you find out that you're not interested in something, and therefore you're probably not willing to put in the time it takes to be good at it, the faster you learn that means the more time you save and the more time you have to try other things to find the thing you're interested in. Although when you say learning about databases, the only thing I've learned about databases is how to use them. I mean, I don't build databases, you know. I just know how to make queries into SQLite and Mongo and Postgres, right? I know how to put things in the databases and take things out of the databases. And most of the time, I'm interacting with the database through an ORM, you know, in code. Which I know, man, that's all the dumb. Lately, I've kind of soured a little bit on the software engineering profession. I guess I've become annoyed with how precious the software engineering profession is about things, right? They're just so, like, this whole idea that, like, you're not a real developer if you've never written C, right? Like that. I'm sure there's people here who have kind of heard that, right? Or have seen somebody say something like that, like, well, you can't be a software developer if you just know how to write JavaScript, right? And I don't understand it. I don't get it. That's like telling a carpenter they can't use a hammer unless they go and forge it themselves. That makes no fucking sense. Like, the whole point of technology is, like, the leveling up of abstractions. But there's like, I think there's this desire in software engineering to prove how smart or how capable you are. It's almost like in fitness, people who want to prove how strong or in shape they are by demonstrating their strength or demonstrating their physical prowess through some sort of activity, right? It's like, let me compete in powerlifting, or let me go run a marathon because I want to show others how in shape I am. I think there's the equivalent in, like, software engineering where people are like, well, let me re-implement Git, or let me rebuild Redis. You know, it's like, let me go use C to create my own programming language, you know? And then making others feel less than because they haven't done that. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, you don't hear plumbers walking around and being like, yeah, I had to forge and cast my own pipe before I could go and repair this leak in this house, because only real plumbers make all their own pipe. Makes no sense. Let's see, 2025. So then you don't think there's any benefit of knowing how some things were built? I think there's benefit in it, but you don't need to actually, like, it's okay to, like, learn about things, but you do not need to know how to forge a hammer to use a hammer. Like, you don't need to know how the JavaScript runtime is implemented to use JavaScript. And just because you don't know how the JavaScript runtime is implemented in C doesn't mean you're not a programmer just because you only know JavaScript. And that's the problem I take issue with. It's not that I don't think it can be valuable to know those things or have those experiences, but to somehow decide that that's the definition, like, arbitrarily, like, you're not a real XYZ because you didn't do ABC. That's the problem. That's the thing I take issue with. It just does it makes no sense to me. Science doesn't work like that. Like, that's not how science is. In science we stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, if you want to be a physicist, we don't make you go back and redo all the work of all the physicists that have come before you in order to be able to claim that you're a physicist. Like that. So that's the part that I have lately begun to kind of roll my eyes at. There's nothing wrong with using abstractions and building on top of abstractions. Learning about it's one thing, but needing to go and actually recreate it, spend your time recreating these things to prove how smart you are or how much you know something. Not for me. Now, if you want to do those things, hey, more power to you. But I don't think you should try to set yourself on a pedestal because you have. Maybe you will actually be a better developer because of it, and that's fine. I mean, that's totally fine. If you put in the work, you have every right. You know? But shaming others is never cool. Sorry, I got a text message. All right, guys, I got about 3 more minutes. Let's see if we can get this test to run real quick. Okay, so we need 3 things here. We need var research brief equals await test data factory dot get. Oh, I need using. And we'll have var writer brief, which will equal new writer. I don't know why I settled on brief as the naming convention here. I don't know. I don't know why I did that. At the time, at 4 o'clock in the morning one day, it sounded good, so I went with it. So this is going to be the test topic brief and then our research brief. And then we're going to pass that along here. Say writer brief message or writer brief message equals writer brief dot to string. I think that's how I did that. Let me see how I'm doing that in the actual writer really quick. Looks like I'm concatenating them together. Which means if this is how we're going to represent it, we can probably just do this. We can go to our writer brief class, and we can just override the string. We can say public override. This returns a string to string, and we can just say return topic brief to string. I honestly don't know if this is how I'm going to stick with it, but this will work for now. To string. Then we can come back here to our test. We should have what we need. Okay, let's try to run this and see if we get an error. We might get an error, but I'll see if this works. Add me to the list of people who ended up backend developers because of CSS. Yeah, I think it's a big group. Let's see. Hey, I woke up early enough to catch you. Hey, Eric, good to see you, man. Oh damn, 3 more minutes. Yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, sorry about that. Miko Ramit, thanks for the subscription. I appreciate you. Hey, Stefan. Hey, Stefan's one of our illustrious YouTube members. There's only 7 of them on planet Earth. And we appreciate them. Yeah, I apologize, Eric. Bad timing. Okay, that ran successfully, so let's go see if we should have captured a response for that. So let's go in here. So here was the message we sent, and here was the response we got back. And let's dump this. So this response right now is in a JSON format. So let's go ahead and dump that in to our formatter here. Oh, whoops. I always forget how to copy things. There we go. Okay, format. So here's our content. This is a markdown file, so I think this time it actually wrote a complete blog post. You'll be amazed at how quickly you become productive. Take that first step. Challenge yourself. Scaffold a new .NET minimal API. Cool. Look at us, man. We fucking got this thing writing blog posts. That's awesome. And obviously there's a system prompt that goes along with this, but this is basically the user message that it receives is topic brief. There's probably some prompt engineering that I can do to improve this. But that's awesome. Okay, that's huge. That's a big milestone. That's the first time we've gotten something where it's completely working to actually produce a blog post. I love it. I love it. I love it. So for now, we'll just leave this stuff the way it is. I need to go take a shower and get ready for work. Let's commit this stuff. Commit in feature. Yeah, we'll whip on editor and add test for writer. Push that up. And you might be like, well, yeah, I just pumped out a bunch of words, Stephen. How do you know it's any good? I don't know it's any good. That's why we're gonna have an editor, and that's why we're gonna have a critic, and then that's why ultimately these posts will be something that I edit and that I review and make sure that it's actually what I want to say. The point of this is just to get to something, right? Instead of me starting from a blank page, I start from a draft. Have you managed to set up your NAS? Yes, yeah. So I've got my NAS running. Let's see if I can remember my IP address. I haven't done all the networking stuff I want to do. Like, I want to basically proxy. I want to have a reverse proxy with an actual, like, what do you call it? Like a friendly domain name that's like truenas.freeborn.cloud or something like that. So eventually I'll have this all set up and networked correctly, but I do have a lot of it set up. I've got a share for my data. So let me see. I've got a share, or I've got data set set up. I've got data set set up for my apps, so that way I can run apps if I want to. Then I have a data set for my actual like file storage on my hard drives. This archive one is the one I'm going to use for all of that footage that I want to back up on here. And then I have a share set up so I can actually get access to the archive folder over the network. I think today I'm going to start moving data off those external drives onto the NAS. So I was very frustrated, Stefan, yesterday for about 2 hours in the afternoon. I was very frustrated with figuring out how to do access control list on the file system. That was very frustrating. I guess there's two different types of access control. There's POSIX-based access control, and then there's NFS v4 access control or something. I don't know. I'm probably not saying the right words, but I finally figured out what I needed to do to get the thing configured the way I want it. So I'm having fun. I'm having fun with the NAS for sure. Eric, don't apologize. Skill issue on my part. No skill issue, Eric. Just bad timing. Bad timing here. Gotta rewrite my whole tracker app? Oh, no way, dude. Don't want to use micro HTTPS anymore. Micro HTTPD, huh? What is that? I've never heard of that before, Stefan. All right, well, I guess you're in for a rewrite then. I mean, rewriting something can be fun. It can also feel tedious. Great stream, really interesting. Have a good day ahead. Thank you, Busy Slim. I appreciate you hanging out. We're here most days, almost every day, from about 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. So if you're around, stop in, say hello. All right, guys, I'm gonna go upstairs and get ready for the day. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Oh shit, I forgot to turn the music down again, didn't I? Fuck, I'm sorry. If the music's been blowing out your eardrums, I really apologize. I need to stop turning it up when I take a break, because I always forget to turn it back down. All right, Lamp, Stefan, Arvin, Busy Slim, Eric, anybody else who's still here, thanks for hanging out with me, keeping me company. I appreciate it. Let's see, housekeeping things. I normally am live at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I sign off about 7 o'clock, at least on weekdays. On weekends, I usually go a little bit longer. If you want to interact with me outside of stream, the best place to find me is Discord. So you can go to discord.stephenfreeborn.com. Obviously, you can hang out in the comments of my videos, my shorts, my streams. That's totally cool too. But Discord is the best place to get at us away from the channel. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. If it's already Wednesday for you, have a great Wednesday. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, guys. Bye, chat. EST. So it's, or not EST, CST, Central Standard Time, United States. So 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, guys. Bye, y'all.